This video is going to cover question 3, part B from the 2021 AP Calculus AB free response, no calculator allowed section. I cover A, B, and C all in their own videos, so if you want to see A or C, check out my other videos. All right, so looking at B right now, they're telling us that we know that y equals this equation right here, check, and that our derivative to that equation, they did it for us. That was awful nice of them. That's going to equal this piece right here. And then what they're telling us is for a particular spinning toy, the radius of the largest cross-sectional area, largest, think max as you're looking at that, is 1.2 inches. So this is actually the answer. That's a y value. We know that the max, whenever somebody's talking about a max, the max is referring to the y value. So we know our y value here is 1.2. And they want to know what is the value of C for that specific spinning toy. All right, so where do we go with this? Well, when we start talking about maxes and mins, first derivative tests need to start popping into your brain. You should just sort of automatically, anytime somebody talks to you about a max or a min, you should be thinking about first derivatives and remembering that first derivatives, where we have critical values, are going to be where we end up finding our maxes and our mins. Well, we know for a fact that we have a max, and so what we can do is we can find the critical value, and that will tell us the x value where that max is happening at. So remember that critical values happen when our derivative equals 0. They also happen when our derivative is undefined. But for this scenario, we're most likely just working at this look here. So here's our derivative. That's my f prime of x. And so I'm going to take and I'm going to start and I'm going to set that derivative equal to 0. And we're going to solve this for x. So the problem here, right, that we can't just solve for c is the fact that these equations, both the derivative equation and our original equation up front here, they've all got too many variables in it. So when we have to solve for multiple variable situation, generally the game is going to be to solve one equation to get a variable and then plug that into the other equation to narrow down the number of variables you have. So we're going to start by using the idea that we know that this is happening at a max, so we know that we're looking at a critical value, which means we know that our derivative has to equal 0. So we're going to start this and we're going to try to solve this equation for x. And then once we know what x is, we can plug x into that original equation. And we already know what y is. So then the only variable left for us to find will be the c that we're looking for. So we'll start off, our mission here is just to find this x value. So take advantage of that 0 on the other side. We'll multiply both sides by the square root of 4 minus x squared to get that out of the bottom. Those cancel out. 0 times anything gets us 0, and then we get c times 4 minus 2x squared. You've got this c being multiplied. You can go ahead and just, again, take advantage of that 0. We divide both sides by c, and we get 0 equals, and we don't need that parentheses now, so then this would be 4 minus 2x squared. Keep working our algebra. We're just trying to solve this to get x by itself. So I'm going to add the 2x squared to the other side to make that positive. We'll get 2x squared equals 4. We'll go ahead and divide by 2. Divide by 2. We get x squared equals 2. And then last little move here, we're going to square root both sides. And we end up getting x is equal to plus or minus. Remember that when you apply a square root, you get the plus or the minus. This problem is strictly in the first quadrant though, so we're strictly in positive x values. Negative square root of 2 would have been over here. We're talking about positive square root of 2 only because we're only in the first quadrant. So now we know x has to equal the square root of 2. We know that the y value, they gave us that already, that was 1.2. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to take that second equation and plug everybody into it, the original function. So instead of y, I would have 1.2 equals c, which I don't know. Then we can plug in for our x. Again, we're looking at this equation right here, the original equation. So everywhere I see an x, I can now plug in the square root of 2. So then this would be the square root of 2 then close that, and then we would get the square root of 4 minus, and then instead of x squared, we're going to have the square root of 2 squared. So now we just need to clean this thing up and solve for c. So let's start working our way through this. We get 1.2 equals c, and then we still got the square root of 2 sitting here. We're going to take care of this inside first. Squaring a square root is going to cancel that piece out. So squaring the square root of 2 is going to get us 4 minus 2 on the inside. Working down the next level, we get 1.2 equals c, and then square root of 2, then 4 minus 2, that's going to get us the square root of 2. And here you now see that you've got the square root of 2 times the square root of 2. That's like having the square root of 2 squared. The square roots are going to cancel each other out, and that's going to leave us with a 2. And then our last move on this is we're just going to go ahead and divide over by the 2 at this point to get c by itself, and we end up 1.2 divided by 2 is 0.6 equals c. C is a parameter. It doesn't have any inches or any sort of units attached to it, so that right there would be our final answer. So on this problem, it's only worth 2 points, but it's 2 points you should be getting. The first thing they want us to do here is they would want us to understand that they want us to find this value. That's kind of 1 point right there. And then using that point and getting to this final conclusion would have been a second point over here. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, please click that like button and subscribe. And also share it with your friends and anyone else you know who might be crying about an upcoming AP Calc test. You can find more videos from me, more sample AP Calc questions, and my complete AP Calc study guide over at my website, apcalcprep.com. Have a great one.